Standard's full of really pushed power creepy creatures, Sheoldreds, Etalis, Dinosaurs, Atraxas. Well, today we're going to use some random commons to steal them all, smash our opponent with their own creatures, and then sack them for value. So here is our Steal, Smack, and Sack deck for Standard. And before we talk about this deck, we got to talk a little bit about Standard. We're in a Standard that is dominated by super powerful power creepy creatures. Atraxas, Etali, Sheoldreds, 3-mana 6/6s. There's all these super big over-the-curve threats that everyone is playing. And that got me thinking, can we build a deck that punishes people for playing all these really strong busted creatures? And that's the goal of this deck today. So what is Steal, Smack, and Sack trying to do? Actually, exactly what its name says. So we got a ton of these random commons and uncommons that can steal opponents' creatures for a turn. All these threaten effects, Bloody Betrayal, Furnace Rains, Twisted Fealty, Ariad's Tempting Apple, all essentially do the same thing. We get to gain control of one of our opponent's creatures, untap it, it gains haste, and then unfortunately we got to give it back to our opponent on the end of turn. Wizards has realized that old school threaten just isn't good enough anymore. So while these have an upside, like Bloody Betrayal makes a blood token, Furnace Rains makes a treasure token, Twisted Fealty makes a wicked roll, Ariad's Tempting Apple, little expensive, but it sits on the battlefield, we maybe drain or gain some life with it. So we have all of these threaten effects. This is the steal part of the deck. Then we have the sack part of the deck. The smack part of the deck comes in between here, where we take our opponents like Etali or Sheoldred and smash them for a bunch of damage before we sack it to Tyrion's Journal, Bart, Flesh Taker, Braids Arisen Nightmare. And this is really the reason why the deck works. It started out as a Tyrion's Journal deck. Tyrion's Journal, really cool Lost Caverns of Ixalan card. It's just a free way to sack an artifact or creature at sorcery speed to draw a card. This plus Bart gives us a lot of free sack outlets, and then you back it up with Flesh Taker and Braids, and we have a lot of redundancy here. So we have 14 different cards that can temporarily steal our opponent's creatures, and then we also have like 13 sack outlets. So there's so much redundancy. So the goal is, every time our opponent plays a big bomby creature, we steal it with a threaten effect, we smack our opponent for some damage, and then we sack it to hopefully draw a card or grow our Bard or whatever, like grow our Flesh Taker, draw with Braids, make our opponent sacrifice something, and that's all we try to do. We steal your stuff, we smack you with your stuff, we sack your stuff to draw some cards. Next turn we do it again, and we're hoping that we're gonna make our opponent so afraid to like play their big creatures that they are put in this position where they either choose to play their big bombs, and then we just steal them and kill them with them, or they choose not to do anything, and then we win by like janky beatdowns. We got Wedding Announcement. That's kind of like our shout out to, if we run into a creature free control deck, we need a way to win the game. In theory, like Bart can get in there, Braids can get in there, but Wedding Announcement grows our team, makes a bunch of tokens. We also have Market Gnome for sacking, Brass's Tunnel Grinder. This is in the deck mostly for the matchups where our threatens are bad. If we run into like a control deck and we get stuck with like 5 threaten effects and our opponent has no creatures, Brass's Tunnel Grinder, we can just filter them all away, find some new stuff. Mana Base, this is the other way that we can pressure our opponent. We have a bunch of creature lands in the deck, otherwise a pretty typical mana base. In the sideboard, we're really trying to solve 2 problems. Our deck should be really good against any like big aggro deck, mid-range deck, ramp style deck, anything that's just like, I'm playing the best creatures in Standard. We should be fine there, because we're just going to steal your Sheoldreds and your Etalis and your Atraxas and kill you with them. The matchups we're worried about are control decks, where our opponent doesn't have many creatures. For this, we bring in a bunch of Planeswalkers, some Duresses. The other matchup that's sketchy is like super go wide aggro, like Soldiers, for example. They just play a ton of 1/1s that aren't really worth stealing with their threaten effects. So we got some cut downs, some get lost, some path to perils to deal with those matchups. And that is Steal, Smack, and Sack for Standard. That's our deck for today. Let's jump into some games and see if we can annoy our opponents by stealing every bomby creature they play, smashing them with those creatures, and then sacking them for value. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. We've got new tokens and playmats, and you can even get the tokens signed if you want. Check them all out over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. It is time to punish opponents for playing good creatures. We are stealing them, smacking them, and sacking them. This hand actually is our janky nut draw. Sack outlet, 4-way to steal creatures. All right, opponent, play something good. We're begging it. Let's see the Sheoldreds. Let's see the Sheoldreds. Let's see the Etalis. Play good. I guess we do need a land. We do need one land. I mean, now all we need is our opponent to play good things. Land go. Opponent. Oh, Rakdos, eh? Yeah, let's get down the Tarian's Journal. Some people randomly play Duress in the main. We really need the Zac outlet down. That is essential. Plus, we probably don't really have to steal something this turn if we have to play the tap land. All right, opponent. What are you up to? Mosswood Dread Knight. All right, that's fine. Wow, 5 ways to steal creatures. How does a creature deck beat this? Show us your biggest, baddest creature, please. Questing Druid. Are you trying cards? Come on now. Wow, did they whiff on lands? Wow, it's the worst Questing Druid ever. Exiled. Wow, another way to steal creatures. Okay. Well, opponents probably think this is going really poorly for us. But actually, Brass's Tunnel Grind. Okay. Wait, does our opponent, have they figured out what we're doing somehow? They got to play creatures eventually, right? They have to. This Tunnel Grinder's a little scary. There is a world where they like manage to discover so much that we can't steal enough things. Like once they play a creature we can steal, then we can start drawing cards with Tarian's Journal, and then we'll hit our land drops. Like we're doing fine. We're doing fine. This is awkward though that our opponent is just turn 4 no creatures. We see them hanging out in exile though. Let's run out Bart. This will reinforce to our opponent that we're some sort of weird sack deck. Let's actually sack Bart. I'd rather have a land than a Bart. Well, apparently we're fated to have a Bart here. Like it or not. About it, land in. Come on, big creature. Sheoldred. All right, Questing Druid. I mean, at this point we'll take any creature. Liliana the Veil, sure. Well, that's fine. We can steal creatures and smash the Liliana opponent. We have way more cards than our opponent. I think we actually just discard the Bart. Okay, it took a little bit to get going. But now we get to do what our deck wants to do. All right, we hit a land, so we play the land. Let's just Ariet's Tempting Apple. Steal the Questing Druid. All right. Well, not a Sheoldred or something, but still, we'll steal it. We'll sack it. We'll steal, smack, and sack. That is the plan. All right, there's another land. Ariet's Tempting Apple is interesting. It's a little more expensive than our other ways to steal creatures, but it does have some upside. It's an artifact that we can sack to Tarian's Journal or Bart, and sometimes the drain mode is relevant. All right, Mosswood Dread Knight. Yes, Sheoldred. Okay, that's what we are looking for. That's what we are looking for. Opponent going to take up. We will discard a Ariet's Tempting Apple. All right, opponent descends. That's fine. We will untap. We draw a Bart. We get Drayed. Well, opponent, that is a mighty fine looking Sheoldred you got there. I think we would like it to be ours for the turn. Yoink. And now we will go attacking this Liliana, which we do need to get off the battlefield. If opponent wants to block, we get it. Wow, it's a 2 for 1. Actually, like a million for 1. All right, so Mosswood Dread Knight down. Liliana stays at 3. Well, I think we just sack this Sheoldred and draw a card. The untap land in the Bart. We actually would... Well, actually, let's not. We should play the tap land. I was thinking we were going to play the Bart, but on second thought, we don't have another sack outlet, and we have enough mana that we can... Oh, Boner Dracosaur. Oh, that's a good creature. Opponent decides not to take up the Liliana. That is a juicy, juicy Dracosaur you got there, opponent. This deck has to be so obnoxious to play against. Look at our hand. Twisted Fealty. Yoink. And kill the Liliana. When does our opponent Rage Scoop? Yeah, Liliana down. And then, oh, Dracosaur. End of turn, go back to you. Nope. Sack it, draw a card. Oh, all right, there's... Man, I wish we played that tap land. Not playing the tap land was annoying. All right, now we're going to run out the Bart. Opponent's only got 1 card in hand. We do kind of want to pressure because the way I could see us losing is if they flip the Brass's Tunnel Grinder, just keep putting multiple big things into play each turn. Enough that we can't steal and sack them all. Although we're getting to the point where we have enough mana that we can, like, double steal now. Do you have more good creatures? This deck has got to be so obnoxious. Dracosaur, Sheoldred, Questing. Our opponent's just playing the greatest hits of creatures in Standard, and we are stealing them all. I bet they have some bomb in hand, and they're like, do I even play it? Like, what do I do? Do I even run it out? All right, Moan Collapse to get rid of the Bart. Sure. Just gonna pass. All right, well, in that case, let's get our wedding announcement going. Wedding announcements, actually, we can sack this blood to draw first. Wedding announcements are main plan if our opponent doesn't play creatures. Wedding announcement. So the risk is, if our opponent just refuses to play creatures, we need some way to pressure them to make sure they have to play creatures, and that's mostly wedding announcement and creature lands. Also, Bart can do it. Like, sometimes Bart gets really big. So opponent makes a token. I mean, we're not above stealing a 1/1 might. Geological appraiser. Okay, that's a little better. That's a little better. Opponent discovers into Mosswood Red Knight. We still have 5 ways to yoink creatures in hand. Opponent Mosswood Red Knight draws a card. Yeah. Get the might out of the way. We're actually just gonna drain with the Tempting Apple because we want to play this second one and it's legendary. We draw a land. Well, let's Furnace Rains. Yoink, the Geological Appraiser. Make a treasure. Sack it, draw a card. It's working. Ooh, another wedding announcement too. It's really working. All right, make a couple tokens. Opponent. All right, Geological Appraiser. I mean, at this point, I guess like we don't even care if it's big. We would rather be stealing something huge because that's more damage, but we have so many ways to steal creatures. We'll steal Geological Appraisers. Eventually, these wedding announcements are going to flip Questing Druid. Wow, opponent's getting afraid. They run it out as a creature, no card draw. Opponent's getting afraid they're about to die. Mosswood Dread Knight, sure. We can steal the Geological Appraiser or Dread Knight. Let's go Appraiser, I think. And then put a Wicked Roll on a token. Opponent, would you like to block your own Geological Appraiser? Opponent says no. Drops to 7. Well, we will sack the Geological Appraiser. Draw a card. Play the creature land and pass the turn. Draw a couple more cards. I mean, we're pretty close to winning here. Wow, they never flipped that Tunnel Grinder either. I mean, we're pretty close to winning. I think we can just theoretically just double steal and win. Trumpeting Carnosaur. That is going to look nice on our side of the board. Opponent into a Questing Druid. Oh, we are crushing our opponent's dreams here. Opponent played many very good creatures, and we stole them and smacked them with them, and then sacked him to draw a card. Opponent draws a Questing Druid, hits a couple lands. I mean, this should be game, right? They run out the Questing Druid. I think we can just steal enough to win, though. Especially since it's, wow, you're going aggro. We can just steal your board here. Opponent hits us to 12. Stuff goes away. Well, we will play the land. Trumpeting Carnosaur. Grab it with the Furnace Rains. And opponent doesn't even wait. They don't even wait. They scoop it up. Well, that went pretty well. Opponent was playing some really big creatures, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the bobs. The funny thing is, so how do you beat this deck? Play bad creatures or no creatures? Like, you know what beats us is a deck that just like plays a bunch of 1/1 tokens. We're never beating that. I mean, we have some like sideboard plans for it, like the Path to Perils, which maybe we should play even more of. But like, if you just played a 1/1 for 1 or like a Resolute Reinforcements every turn, no way we're ever beating that. But if you play good things, Sheoldreds, Dracosaurs, Carnosaurs, you're gonna get got. And got good. Our opponent's just playing good, clean, normal Magic and absolutely getting punished for it. So I imagine our opponent in sideboarding, if they have any planeswalkers or anything, they're going to try to bring them in. They're going to try to bring in ways to win the game that are not creatures, if they have any. Yeah. Well, this hand is not great. I do like the Liliana. We have 2 I mean, maybe this is fine. We have 2 sack outlets. Our deck is full of ways to steal creatures, and Liliana's pretty good. So Get Lost is a shout out to things like creature lands. There's something like, so creature lands and vehicles aren't creatures during our turn. So we're not good at stealing them. So we do need some answers for things like that. Tap land and Mosswood Dread Knight. Well, we don't currently have a way to steal that. So the question is, what do we do here? Liliana take down. I think this is fine. If our opponent wants to spend their turn drawing a card and losing in life with Dread Knight, we're pretty cool with that here. Well, get and hit you. They can't activate their creature land yet. And now we can start attacking their hand with Liliana. Opponent's got the fear. They got the fear. They got the fear of playing a creature. I just imagine them sitting there with like a Sheoldred in hand and like, Can I do it? Can I actually play the best creature in Standard? Is it a mistake to play the best creature in Standard? Opponent, Liliana of their own. I guess we're both gonna end up empty-handed here. Opponent takes down, gets rid of the Bart. Well, let's play Take Numa. Let's play Braids. Let's play the Market Gnome. And take up Lily. Well, we'll see what our opponent does. We can sack the Market Gnome, draw 2 cards, drain you a bit. I feel like our card advantage, hopefully, is going to make our lilies better than our opponent's lilies. What if our opponent just fires up this creature land? Do we have to block? Probably not. Like, if they want to fire it up and kill the lily, I think that's fine. Like, we do have this get lost, so we can kill the lily in the future if we have to. Kind of annoying to have to discard the creature land, but I think it's worth. Bress's Tunnel Grinder. Okay. That does work well with the lily. Like, if our opponent can keep some permanents in hand, then we can probably flip that. A flip Tunnel Grinder could be an issue. So far, opponent has really not played creatures. Well, we'll discard a land. Tunnel Grinder does its thing. Kill the lily. Yeah, let's play the fortress. Take up. Discard the second lily. I mean, we can map away the creature land if they fire it up. Opponent discards Geological Appraiser. Yeah, I don't think we want to sack a land here. This has been a weird draw. We have drawn 0 of our creature stealing effects, but I guess that's fine because our opponent has played 0 actual creatures. The downside of the map tokens is it might help our opponent flip the Tunnel Grinder in the future. Wow, Trumpeting Carnosaur is removal on the Braids, sure. And, well, our opponent has successfully dealt with our hand. And this Tunnel Grinder is getting close to flipping. All right, there's a Furnace Rains. So we can Restless Fortress, but then our opponent just fortresses back and makes a food. Is it even worth it? We also have to spend a life because of the Pain Land. Yeah, I think it's not worth it. I think we'd rather kill the creature land if they fire it up. Still a little worried about this Tunnel Grinder flipping. Ooh, opponent's looking at it. All right, fires up Restless Cottage. Sure. Well, we will kill the Restless Cottage. Opponent does get some maps, and this does flip the Tunnel Grinder. We just draw land. Well, now we're definitely firing up this Restless Fortress. Get in, hit ya. I don't know how this ends, honestly. Opponent's down to 12. We're up to 20. But they do have the Brass's Tunnel Grinder. We really just want our opponent to play something big. They have refused to play big creatures. All right, they fire up their Restless Ridge. Map it into a land. Well, I guess if you did it once, you're going to do it twice. Map it into a Trumpeting Car. Okay, that's actually good. That's what I've never been more happy to see a Trumpeting Carnosaur on the top of my opponent's deck. There's a Bart. That's even better. So now we have a sack outlet to go with our Furnace Rains. I was thinking we might be able to win just by stealing and smacking with the Carnosaur, but Bart makes it even better. Now we can Furnace Rains and Bart to get rid of it. All right, opponent, spin it to win. Spin it to win. Trumpeting Carnosaur into Gix's command. That's fine. That's just future value. Doesn't do anything right now. They need to hit at least a blocker for their own Carnosaur. Geological Appraiser. Spins into Tranquil Frillback. Sure. Can't kick it, thankfully. Well, I mean, we will see. There's a Tyrian's Journal. So let's Furnace Raids. Take that Carnosaur. Opponent, would you like to trade your entire board for your own Trumpeting Carnosaur? No. Opponent goes to 2. Well, in that case, I think we play Tyrian's Journal. Sack to draw. Ooh, Ariad's Tempting Apple. Okay, pass it. This is going to be interesting. So they can Gix's command. It doesn't discover because it's not a permanent, thankfully. So they can Gix's command, lifelink up the dino, get back some stuff for next turn. So they're going to hit us for 8 and gain 5. If they swing out, I think they die, which is hilarious. They need to leave back a blocker for the thing that we could steal. Does our opponent leave back a blocker? No. Opponent gets in there. They go up to 7, and we're going to see the sneaky hidden mode of Ariad's Tempting Apple actually matter. Ariad's Tempting Apple steal the frill back. That lifelink almost got us. Steal the frill back. Go to combat. Hit you for 5 down to 2. Sneaky Ariad's Tempting Apple Drain for the last 2. Last 3. Yes! Opponent. Shouldn't have played that Carnosaur. We are hoping our opponent plays the best, most powerful creatures in Standard so we can steal them, smack them with them, and sack them. In this hand, we're missing the sack them at the moment. That's the one thing we're actually missing. We could use some sack outlets. Well, let's get on the market now. The thing I like about this hand, though, is we do have double wedding announcement. We've seen for the last 2 years in Standard that sometimes you just play 2 wedding announcements. Ooh, Iron Craig, eh? Well, get down the wedding announcement. So opponent's got to be some kind of ramp deck. Ooh, what are they ramping into? Hopefully they're ramping into creatures. Salus does so much ramp. Still really want a sack outlet. So I think let's attack first. Attack with both, because we want to draw with these wedding announcements. Draw, looking for lands and sack outlets. Well, there's a land, and there's a sack outlet. Okay. Things are coming together. Assuming our opponent's ramping into creatures. If they're winning without creatures, that would be sad. Like, if their plan is to play, like, a Chandra or something, in combo with Breach the Multiverse, then we get a little sadder, but... Actually, don't play something big this turn. Wait, one more turn. We don't have enough mana, because we missed that land drop to Tarian's Journal and... Alright, Decadent... Yes, enjoy our deck, opponent. Enjoy our many, many threatens. You can threaten our market gnomes here. Do we want to draw, or do we want to make tokens? This is actually very close. I think we want to make tokens this turn. Make tokens. We can Tarian's Journal to sack the market gnomes to draw 2, which should set us up to hit our land dropping in next turn. Yeah. Well, Journal, sack market gnomes. Draw 2, gain 1. Thankfully not a basic. We got 2 basics in the deck, and they have this Desolation Field, so... If we draw our last basic, we do get Strip Mined at some point. Well, run out another market gnome. I wonder what our opponent stole from us. I wonder if they stole Threaten Effects so they know what we're doing. I mean, at this point, we just look like a weird sack deck, basically. We haven't played any Threatens, so our opponent probably doesn't know. All right, they're gonna Demolition Field, sure. Well, hopefully that's only 1 because we're about to grab our last basic. Maybe 2 basics. Yeah, 2's fine, right? Usually. We could go 3. Now you can play something big. Show us that Decadent Dragon. Show us that Decadent Dragon, please. Whew! Etali. Oh my god, Etali. Okay. Okay, what do you spin into? Oh, that is a 7/7. That is pretty big. As long as the ETB doesn't get us, what do they find? As long as the ETB doesn't get us, they find a Tarian's Journal. Sure. Thankfully, Tarian's Journal is only sorcery speed. Brotherhood End to... Oh, hopefully... Wow, if they go artifacts here, it's very bad for us. Okay. They go creatures, which makes sense. Although, honestly, artifacts would have been better. So, Tarian's Journal can only sack at sorcery speed, so they can't use it to fizzle our bloody betrayals and tempting apples. All right, opponent's going to sack a mana rock, draw a card. We're going to do what our deck is here to do. The question is, in what order? So, we play a Ganjo. Actually, do we just Tempting Apple? Yeah, Tempting Apple's fine. So, Tempting Apple... Steal the Etali, smack you with the Etali, and then we'll sack the Etali. All right, one more Etali, please. One more, just one more Etali. We draw land, play the land, draw with the wedding announcement. Well, okay, Flesh Taker's not bad. That's a backup sack outlet. So if our opponent deals with our Tarian's Journal, at least we still have a way to execute our game plan. Tarian's Journal is definitely our best sack outlet. Bart's also very good, but... The card advantage. Wow, they just run it out. Okay, Etali. Into. Okay, wow, this actually kind of works for them. They can Furnace Trains our market gnome and sack it to our Tarian's Journal. Our opponent's playing our deck. That's it's not fair. That's not fair. Opponent sacks it. Does this save our opponent? Wow, are we gonna win another game because of Ariad's Tempting Apple draining for 3? I think so. Etali gets in for 9, 1 short of lethal. And then, yeah, Ariad's Tempting Apple. I would not have expected this trade for 3 to be so relevant. It's another game we won with Arian's Tempting Apple trade. Well, things are actually looking pretty good. Our opponent's deck is built around slamming big creatures into play, which means we are in our wheelhouse. Yeah, we'll bring in a couple dresses. Do a little trimming around the fringes. I'm still a little worried that they could be like a Breach the Multiverse deck. So being able to duress a Breach is relevant. I actually kind of like this hand. Unfortunately, our lands are incredibly tapped. We drew all 3 of our creature lands. We have 1 of each, and we drew them all. So land's a little tapped. Ooh. Yeah, let's just play the tap land. Next turn, we can, like, fast land, duress market gnomes, maybe. Ooh, all right, get rid of it. Wow. Sheoldred, double Etali. Let's play Restless Fence. Ooh, are we getting Guild of Ruins? They're playing a lot of Field of Ruins. There is a risk that we get strip mined eventually in this matchup. Well, we will grab a Plains. This is fine, though. The first one's fine. And Market Gnomes. And Tyrion's Journal. And sack the Market Gnomes. Draw a couple cards. So we need to find a threaten effect. Our opponent's going to play the Sheoldred. Duress. Market Gnomes, and we do need a way to get rid of the Sheoldred. The duress was big. Getting rid of the Terrace Under, actually super helpful here. Opponent, another Demolition Field, and Sheoldred. Well, we do not currently have an answer. Ugh. Sokinzan. Oh, we have so many answers in our deck. The thing that makes Sheoldred so punishing is, like, we have ways to draw cards. Wow, another Terrace Under. Opponent's hand is triple Etali. I mean, we like sack Market Gnome, draw cards, but Sheoldred just punishes us for doing that, which is very awkward. Well, we need any removal or threaten effect, hopefully in the somewhat near future. If we get rid of the Sheoldred, then I guess we just are in the Etali waiting room. Opponent gets in with Sheoldred. We're gonna block. Draw a card, please. Sheoldred removal deck. Boy, we've drawn a lot of lands. Please thin our deck. We have flooded out severely. All right, opponent's gonna blow up our creature land. Sure. Well, get our last basic. I'm surprised our opponent activated that. I mean, I guess they didn't want us looting, but looting's... Oh, no. Oh, goodness. Whew. All right, we're getting to the calculator stage of this game where we have just drawn an absurd number of lands. I mean, we got 11? We've drawn 11 so far. That's a lot. Well, we can channel the Sokinzan to make a jump blocker. Thankfully, we're at a relatively high life total. Our opponent's hitting lands, so Etali's coming next turn. All right, well, Bloody Betrayal is actually a really nice draw. That lets us get rid of the Sheoldred. It also gives us a blood token, which we can use to filter away a land. And we actually get to start drawing cards again with Tyrion's Journal. Yeah, sack the Sheoldred. Cannot cast the Braids currently. Well, sack the blood, discard a land, into even more lands. Oh my goodness, so many lands. Does our opponent draw land? It is possible with how many lands we've drawn that triple Etali could just beat us, depending on how it spins. Opponent. All right, hits an Ariad's Tempting Apple. We would have liked to draw that. Yeah, I think we're getting close to a calculatorable number of lands here. There's a bunch in the graveyard, too. All right, opponent, Decadent Dragon. Trying to figure out if they want to draw with it or just play the dragon. So opponent's going to steal our token for the turn. So we really need a threaten. Oh, jeez. Whew. 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 Bloody Betrayal. I mean, this gives us a shot. So we Bloody Betrayal the Etali. I mean, if we win this one through this amount of flood, that would be very impressive. Opponent takes it to 12. So we get to run out of Braids. So we still have a sack outlet. Play yet another land. End a turn. Sack the Etali. Opponent, would you like to sack your Decadent Dragon? If not, that's fine. Okay, well, we fought through the huge land pocket and we're in the game. We're in the game. Opponent's at 10. These Etalis, though. All right, what does this Etali hit? Ooh, that's really bad for us. Yeah, Braids can sack itself. All right. Oh, are we going to end up just short? So the Braids can sack itself. Opponent gets in, makes a treasure. Yeah. So they sack the Braids, and then they also have the Ariad's Tempting Apple, and we can't get lethal this turn. All right, run it back. Normally, we want our opponent to play Etali, but that game we just drew so many lands that double Etali. Double Etali was good enough. Honestly, we kind of lost to our own deck. What was killing us there was Ariad's Tempting Apple. Like, they hit us with the Braids and sacked the Ariad's Tempting Apple, and we just die. So it was really our Braids and Tempting Apple that got us. All right, this hand's pretty good. Tarian's Journal with Market Gnomes is good, and then we have our wedding announcements to actually put some bodies on the battlefield. Well, get down the Tarian's Journal, and I think we just sack the gnome. Gotta get that sweet, sweet value. Draw 2. All right, there's a Furnace Reigns and a Ganjo. I mean, we're in business. We're in business. Can you kill our Tarian's Journal opponent? We did see the Terra Sunder, so we know it's possible. Opponent just plays a tap land. I guess that's the other upside of wedding announcement is our opponent, it works with Tarian's Journal pretty well. Like, we can sack the tokens if we need to, and it's a nice distraction. If you got a Terra Sunder, like, what are you going for? Opponent, how about a creature? Iron Crag. Not exactly a creature. Well, more wedding announcements. And a Restless Bivouac. Gonna hit you. We're kind of like an aggro deck at the moment. Make some tokens. Double wedding announcement can sometimes win games by itself. Any big thing you feel like playing? Oh, opponent. See, they got the fear. I think they got the fear. I fail to believe that our opponent has 5 mana and cannot play anything with that 5 mana. I don't believe it. I think they know what happens. They play something good and we steal it and smack them with it, and then sack it and draw a card. I think our opponent, they have the fear of playing things against our deck. We have scared them out of playing Sheoldreds and Etalis. Well, all right, sack draw, run out of Market Gnomes. We're going to draw a bunch of cards here because we had to draw with both. We're going to draw so many cards here, I think it's okay. Because we're going to draw 2 more cards, and then if Market Gnome dies, we draw a card, and we have the journal too. So we're gonna mostly refill our hand. Maybe our opponent has something to do with instant speed. That would make things make much more sense if they actually had something to do with instant speed this turn. Ooh, big score. Discarding a Decadent... Discards Decadent Dragon. They have the fear. We gave them the fear. They're afraid to play they're afraid to play their dragons. They're feeling threatened. You gotta do something. We're beating you down with Market Gnome, so you better do something or that Market Gnome's gonna get you. Brothers, Hoods, and Sure. So we're going to wipe out our creatures. That's fine. We can sack 1 to grow the Tide Taker. So we actually only lose the 2 tokens. It's not the end of the world. Do not need another land. You're not going to win if you don't play your creatures, opponent. You're not going to win if you do play your creatures, but you're also not going to win if you don't play your creatures. Or are they going to kill the... Wow. They're trying very hard not to play their creatures. How do we punish them for that? Creature land beat down, I guess. Like, what else are we doing this turn? Yeah, let's fire up the Bivouac. I mean, if you don't play anything, then we're just gonna attack you with our Market Gnomes until you die. Play another Market Gnome. Market Gnome aggro. Sack a Market Gnome, draw a couple cards. Might be better to leave it out there as a attacker, but how do you pass up the value of sacking a Market Gnomes? All right, opponent, you got to do it. You got to do it. There we go. There we go. Etali. What does it spit into? Well, now you're dead. Ariad's Tempting Apple and, oh my God, Decadent Dragon. Wow, we just steal them both. We steal them both. Oh, this is so brutal. Our opponent, they got the fear. They tried not to play creatures the whole game. Bad news is, eventually they had to because of our Market Gnome beatdown. And now, Furnace Reigns Etali, and also Furnace Reigns Decadent Dragon, and do a little attacking. Well, that's what you get for playing good cards, opponent. Shouldn't have played them good creatures. I love this deck. Yeah, we'll play first. Double wedding announcements, pretty reasonable. See what our opponent's up to. Again, Joe. Ooh, recruitment officer. Ooh. All right, we will see. So I feel like soldiers might be a tricky matchup. So soldiers, the thing is, their creatures kind of suck. Our deck really wants our opponent to play good creatures, not a whole bunch of bad creatures. All right, another recruitment. Oh, well, okay. On second thought, if our opponent only has one land, this might be perfectly fine. Wow, this might just be game already. Opponent scries to the bottom, because now we just get to, wow, yeah, this is actually kind of ridiculous. Yeah, I guess Twisted Fealty and getting the roll is better. Steal it. I mean, I would not be surprised if our opponent just scooped here. Well, I guess I take that all back. Maybe this is a great matchup. I think we're actually benefiting from our opponent being stuck on one land. Yeah, opponent, you're not coming back from that, I don't think. So maybe this isn't soldiers. Maybe it's just generic mono white. That makes some amount of sense. Don't want to get too cocky because I still feel like this is probably not our most ideal matchup. Well, okay. We need a white source for Bart, but we got to cut down for the first threat. Recruitment on green mana. What is our opponent's deck? Maybe they're humans? Humans. Catilda's in green, right? Okay, Cavern on Human, Coppercoat Vanguard. Get down Bart. Drawing white mana is actually kind of big, because now, if our opponent can't kill the Bart, all of our threatens are real cards. Opponent, Warden of the Inner Sky. Hopeful Initiate. We probably need to yoink the Coppercoat Vanguard first, because the ward's a little obnoxious. All right, opponent, yeah, scries to the bottom, gets counter. Well, we might need Soken then if we keep drawing lands. Let's just Furnace Rains the Coppercoat Vanguard with just the Vanguard, I think. Leaving Bart on defense, I think, is necessary. The treasure is actually kind of hilariously big here because it lets us leave up cut down. So if our opponent goes to activate this Warden, we can just cut down in response. Whew. Whew. Yeah, we're gonna cut that down. And now our opponent's tapped out. That's big. Wow. We might actually beat aggro. We might actually beat aggro. Now we'll play the Sonkenzan, get down the Ariad Tempting Apple, steal the, I guess, Recruitment Officer, and I think we can attack with both now. I think we're the aggro deck now. And sack it. Steal, smack, and sack. Steal, smack, and sack. Somehow it keeps working. Ew, Extraction Specialist. All right, that's pretty good for our opponent. Gets to get back Coppercoat Vanguard, probably, yeah. Gets back the Vanguard. What do we steal now? I guess we have enough mana that we can pay the ward. Kind of want to get rid of the lifelink. We're actually, like, kind of winning this race. Yeah, I think we actually... We're only playing one thing this turn anyway. So we might as well just take the Extraction Specialist, pay the ward. So we gain back 3. Opponent goes to 6. And sack the Extraction Specialist, get that out of there. Also remember, we have an Ariad Tempting Apple on the battlefield, which is 3 more points. Adaline. Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. Opponent gets in, makes a token, hits us. Oh, poor opponent. I think we will Furnace Rains your Adaline. Well, I mean, opponent definitely stumbled on mana in game 1, but yeah, we just took down an aggro deck. I didn't actually realize that was possible. Maybe we broke it. Did we break it? Maybe we actually broke it. Wouldn't it be hilarious if this deck was real? Sweet, sweet, sweet. It is Theben time. We are stealing and sacking in standard. I like double wedding announcement. See what our opponent's up to. Oh, God, okay. Blue mana Recruitment Officer, so this probably is soldiers. All right, so we just beat aggro, but it did require our opponent kind of stumbling on lands a little bit. Let's see how we do against soldiers. I still feel like, so with this deck, opponent, yeah, gets in. Well, I think we just start playing, oh, they're gonna counter, aren't they? Well, we're going to start playing wedding announcements. So this deck, if you think about matchups, what do we not want to play? Creature Field Control. No. That's very, very bad. And then not as bad, but still sketchy, I think, is aggro. Just because threatening Recruitment Officers is not nearly as exciting as Dinosaurs and Sheoldreds and like other massive things. I feel like our opponent has another counter here. We do want to sack Outlet down. So we can play a Tarian's Journal and it probably resolves, but it doesn't really do anything. If they counter it, that's fine. Then we just play the second one. All right, so Journal down, although Journal not especially effective at the moment. If we can start resolving threatens, like we do have the Tempting Apple. Ooh, all right, yeah, Resolute. See, this is Resolute Reinforcements is like the card we're most scared of somehow. Give us your Italis, give us your Sheoldreds, just don't Resolute Reinforce us. There's all these little bodies are so bad for stealing. Like, it's not worth, like, we still do it because we don't have an option, but spending 3 or 4 mana to like steal a 1/1, attack for 1 maybe, sack it to draw a card is not as exciting as a 4/5 or a 7/7. And opponent gets in, hits us down to 12. This is not good. Play better cards, opponent. Jeez, opponent figured it out. They figured out the secret. Play bad cards. Play bad cards to play around our thieving plan. How do we not die here? I guess we just run out the braids? This is just to be a blocker, essentially. If it resolves, we probably sack the Tarian's Journal, I think, since we have a second one anyway. And braids is also a sack outlet. On second thought, maybe we just keep it. Oh no. The nightmare. The nightmare. The nightmare of nightmares about it. Aw. Yeah, they figured it out. They figured out the way to beat the unbeatable sack, smack, and sack deck, which is play a bunch of 1/1s and then drop a Lord. Okay, so cut down in, Path to Peril in. So one thing I've realized, I think the sideboard could be better. Our main deck is so hilariously good against any of the big aggro mid-range creature decks. I think our sideboard, maybe we go like 4 Path of Perils, because we talked about the issues. What are the issues? The Resolute Reinforcement deck, annoying to play against. Creature-free control decks. Our sideboard is geared towards those, but I think maybe we get to skew even more in that direction. I'm thinking that's the direction to go with the sideboard. More Planeswalkers probably for control, and then more one-lander. Well, okay. We have multiple removal spells. Yeah, let's just put the Get Lost to the bottom. Land, go. Hopefully we don't need the Get Lost here. Yeah, even Get Lost, like, it's nice to have the option to kill something, but at the same time, spending a Get Lost and giving 2 maps to get rid of a 1/1 is just not great. Kill the Reinforcements, bastard. Maybe we can flip this Tunnel Grinder. We haven't seen many Tunnel Grinder flips, although Tunnel Grinder, I do like it in this deck. It's a shout out to the fact that, of those bad matchups, essentially. Like, we don't want to run into the creature-free... Wow, that's a lot of Reinforcement Officers. We don't want to run into the creature-free control deck and just get stuck with 7 threatens in hand. So Brass's Tunnel Grinder is in theory a way that we can deal with that. Yeah, let's discard this land and the Flesh Taker. We already have a sack outlet. Well, okay. Market Gnomes is something. Yeah, this doesn't feel like it's going well, though. Opponent goes combat, gets and hits us. Soldiers and their 1/1s, come on now. Well, land, Market Gnome. I think we're gonna Tarian's Journal. The question is, do we sack it? The upside of sacking is it does get us a counter on the Tunnel Grinder. We gain a life and draw a card. This would be soaking up 2 damage. Yeah, I think we sack. If it wasn't for the Tunnel Grinder, we probably wouldn't sack. But because we're also getting the Tunnel Grinder counter. Ooh. Oh, double wedding announcement. Good card. I don't know if it's good enough here, though. Opponent. Zephyr Sentinel. Oh. Do you even bounce anything? Probably not. Yeah, I think we're just going to be too slow here. Yeah, Soldiers does feel like a tough matchup. Opponent combat. Pumps. So we take 7 down to 9. Well, let's see what we draw. I don't think we can come back from here. Yoink all the best creatures and turn them against our opponents. Pretty good. We got the Tarian's Journal, which is our best card. We only 1 threaten, but we have a ton of them in our deck. Skrelv. That's a little annoying. Skrelv, we're probably going to have to deal with at some point because it can fizzle our threatens. Top 2,000. Pretty high mythic. Let's play the land, go attacking, and run out the Tarian's Journal. Hopefully it resolves. That'd be sad if it didn't. It's like our Tarian's Journal is very important to this deck. The card advantage engine aspect of it, really, really big. Hilariously, Ariad's Tempting Apple being colorless is kind of huge against the Skrelv. We're still gonna have to deal with it at some point because the Skrelv is gonna fizzle all of our other red threatens. But Ariad's Tempting Apple is a colorless card, Lord Skitter. Like, for example, we can steal this Lord Skitter, get a rat. Ooh, wedding announcement. Well, we definitely have to get rid of this Lord Skitter, I think. And Skrelv just can't do anything about it because it's colorless. Ariad's Tempting Apple has really impressed me. It's 1 more mana, but being colorless is big. The drain mode is like shockingly important. Like, we've won multiple games with the drain mode. The Lord Skitter. And go to combat, make a rat. The rat's also kind of nice too. That's good sack fodder. Maybe we should be playing Lord Skitter. Our deck at this point, it's like very much based on beating you with your own creatures. We're not really playing win condition. I mean, I guess wedding announcements, the closest thing we have to a win condition. That is a shout out to the decks with no creatures. Ooh, do we want a Bart? We already have 2 sack outlets. Yeah, probably not. Another Tarian's Journal. I wonder if there's ever a world where we try to flip Tarian's Journal. About it. I would like to get rid of the Skrelv. About it. Passes. We draw more lands. If our opponent blocks, we can sack the rat. If they don't, we probably just sack the rat to draw a card, honestly. Yeah, we'll just let him take 2. We're not going to sack the rat here. I think we'd rather draw a card, see if we can find a threatener or something. So sack the Ariad's Tempting Apple. We'll hold on to the rat for next turn. Ugh. Flood mode. Well, we got enough mana that if our opponent makes disappears, they have to sack something. Although they do have this rat token. All right, make disappear, sack the rat. Sure. Yeah, that's the other upside of Ariad's Tempting Apple is you can sack artifacts to Tarian's Journal. Opponent has successfully stopped our wedding announcement. Unfortunately, this is a lot of lands. Many lands. Not many threatens. What do you got? That is a good one. We're going to have to find a way to... Oh, this might be getting bad for us. So we need to get rid of the Skrelv to get rid of the Rafine. Opponent gets to start conniving. I guess a Ganjo. We can use a Ganjo's removal at some point. Still would really like to draw a threaten. A Ganjo's another removal spell that doesn't care about Skrelv, at least. All right, opponent does their conniving, discards a land. Hits us for 2. Come on, deck. Well, yeah, let's sack the rat. We do get to scry with this Flesh Taker. Even more lands, all right, to the bottom. Draw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 out of 14? That is absurd. Because we scried 1 to the bottom, too. Jeez. Not looking that good. Thankfully, one of our lands is a Ganjo, which is relevant here. How do they connive? Right, they're going to connive on the Denic. So I think we just try to Ganjo the Denic. Our opponent can sack a Plaza to save it. If they do, that's pretty much their turn, though, and they're down a land. I think... Rafine is a bigger long-term problem. I don't like this life gain from this Denic. Our opponent is down to 11. And this does fizzle the connive, which is also relevant. So I think, even though we got to get rid of this Rafine eventually, I think this is better. We also need to deal with this Skrelv. That's our biggest problem at the moment, is like, technically, a threaten isn't even a great draw because of the Skrelv. I mean, I guess it's fine. We can threaten the Skrelv and get rid of that, and then the next one. I mean, our deck has so many ways to steal creatures. We're gonna find them eventually. We have to. And plus, we've gotten a lot of lands out of the way. So odds of drawing lands not super high because we've drawn them. Arena trying its best this game to make me believe in shuffler conspiracy theories. It's another land. Well, let's it would be sad if it dies, but we really need to loot here to get rid of some of this incredible amount of lands we've drawn. So our opponent didn't Denic. All right, there's a Wandering Emperor. Yeah. Sadly, we can't Tarian's Journal at instant speed. I'm going to snipe the Flesh Taker. I guess that makes sense. If they went the other way, we could sack the land to the Flesh Taker, but you can't sack Flesh Taker to itself. We get with our creature land, discard a fast land, draw a Bart. Opponent goes back down to 11. Play the Bart. Play another creature land. Well, at least flooding out lets us activate our creature lands. That's something. I could almost see a world where we flip this Tyrion's Journal here. Like, the downside of discarding your hand is getting less and less. At some point, it's going to be relatively non-existent. Wow, they get in with the Skrelv. Interesting. So our opponent's hand must not be very good. Attacking with the Skrelv is greedy. Yeah, opponent discards 2 lands. Because this means there's no protection for the Rafine. This means we're drawing live to a threaten effect to just get rid of the Rafine problem. And we get to block this Skrelv. And we can sack the Tyrion's Journal to keep Bart alive. Because we gotta back up in hand anyway. So I guess from our opponent's perspective, they don't know we have another Tyrion's Journal. So they're thinking, well, worst case, we get rid of the Tyrion's Journal. We got to get rid of these extra lands in our hand. But that went way better than I would have guessed. Like, now the Skrelv is gone. We still have a sack outlet. We have another journal. And sooner or later, we're going to draw a bunch of ways to steal creatures. Because we've only drawn a single Ariad's Tempting Apple. And we have like 14 in our deck. So, Virtue. Okay, that's scary. Us is big. Twisted Fealty, the Rafine. Now we get to do some conniving. Maybe not as flashy as stealing an Etali or something, but stealing a Rafine still feels pretty good. And now we can attack, I think, with both and just connive onto the Bart. And as long as we discard 1 non-land like a Tyrion's Journal, big enough to get through. So this is a lot of damage. Our opponent's actually close to being dead here. Opponent down to 4. Tyrion's Journal, sack the Rafine, draw a card. Ooh, and a Market Gnome. All right, get down the Market Gnome, and yeah, we'll just pass. And that was huge. Are we gonna beat Esper? We might be beating Esper. Opponent. Oh, Shield. Yes, yes. Runs out the Sheoldred. Opponent gets in. It's so funny because normally you're like groaning when your opponent just plays Sheoldred, but with this deck, we're like actively rooting for it. Please play your good cards. Opponent, Sheoldreds. Well, we get another Twisted Fealty, which is actually nice. This should mean we steal both of our opponent's things, or worst case, if they have a counter, we still get rid of the Sheoldred. Opponent, are you feeling betrayed by your Sheoldred? Shouldn't have played the good cards, opponent. Should have more resolute reinforcements, less Sheoldreds. That's the lesson we are handing out to standard players today. Stop playing bomby big threats. Play 1/1s if you want to beat us. Well, all right. Well, not as exciting as taking a Sheoldred, but we're not above killing you with your own token. Smack ya, Market Gnome beat down, and about it, scoops it up. And this deck's actually like kind of effective, weirdly, oddly, surprisingly. I don't think we change much. I could see an argument for bringing in Cut Down to deal with Rafine, but that might be about it. And yeah, let's just run it like that. On a game number 2, gonna be on the draw versus Esper. No way to steal creatures, but couple sack outlets, couple wedding announcements. As far as just like raw power level, this is probably one of our deck's better hands. Opponent gonna lead on a tap land, as will we. Opponent, Darksweet Shores. Duress. Well, I imagine they take a wedding announcement. That would be my guess. You can take the Furnace Rains, but we have so many of them, it doesn't really matter. Opponent's really thinking about it, though. All right, does take the wedding announcement. Well, sometimes you draw what they thought sees. It always feels bad when it happens to you, but it usually feels pretty good when it happens to your opponent. All right, so opponent also has a cut down. Opponent's off to a very control-y start this game. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Like, how do you play around? Oh, another one. Well, thankfully, since we just keep drawing wedding announcements, so we're still gonna get one down. Wow, they take the Furnace Rains. Interesting. I don't think our opponent really has any idea what to do against our deck. I guess it's unlucky for them that we do another wedding announcement, but not unlucky that we do a Bloody Betrayal because our deck is just full of those. Our opponent plays Sheoldred. The problem is we don't currently have a sack outlet, so I think we have to play Braids. Play Braids, pass. This is going to come down to, does our opponent have a counter, I think. So we're going to decline. We make a token. So Braids is awesome, and I love Braids. It is one of the riskier sack outlets in the deck, though, because there is a world where we, like, Bloody Betrayal the Sheoldred, and then our opponent kills the Braids before we get to our end step. We can't sack at instant speed, and we do need to get rid of the Sheoldred. It also shuts down our card draw. Not only does it kill us, but it just makes me salty as well. the double Sheoldred whammy. Opponent passes, we draw a tap land. Well, let's just wedding announcement and wait. I feel like it's too risky to go for it this turn. The other way we could beat a Sheoldred is, yeah, we're not going to swing our Braids into Wandering Emperor. We might swing with a token. If they have Wandering Emperor, at least our Braids is not getting sniped. The other way we could beat Sheoldred, theoretically, is just, like, make a huge board. All right, there's a Wandering Emperor. Like, maybe we make a big enough board that we can block it. Right now, though, our plan is kind of just, like, stall out until we draw a better sack outlet, a less risky one. Or if our opponent just taps down, we'll just go for it. All right, opponent gains some life with Sheoldred. The life gain is fine. Like, we'll kill him eventually. The drain is a bigger issue. Duress. Opponent's down to 2 cards in hand. That's a little bit of good news. I guess we're also down to 1 card in hand. Triple Duress. Although the Duress is, like, we're more annoying than game breaking. Wow, opponent just passes. Okay, there is a Tarian's Journal. Yeah, let's play the journal first. So we can pay for Make Disappear. All right, that resolves. Well, run out the Market Gnome. And I think we're going to sack. Like, this hurts because of Sheoldred. We gain back 1, so we're going to lose 3 total down to 9. We draw land and a Bart. No attacks, run out the Bart. Pass and flip. I mean, the question, like, we're doing fine. We're stabilizing the board. Our board's actually, like, getting pretty good. Ooh, virtual loyalty. The only issue is this Sheoldred. Like, we're at 9. We only have a few turns left before we just die to Sheoldred Drain. That is a actual real concern here. We gotta find a way to get rid of the Sheoldred. If I was our opponent, I wonder if there's an argument to just going full on Sheoldred protect mode, just like leaving up the plaza every turn. If they can just keep the Sheoldred on the battlefield, we do die. That is a very actual realistic possibility here, unfortunately. And it like shuts down our Tarian's Journal. Like every time we draw a card, wow. Wow, opponent apparently feels like they're the aggro. I feel like this attack is a sign of weakness. From our opponent. Sack the one blocking Sheoldred so we can kill a token. Wow. Okay. Interesting. And opponent passes. Well, we draw Market Gnome. We get drained. Fairy Mastermind to block. Oh, we might have to sack this Market Gnome. Our opponent's tapped down. I think we can just flip the journal. That might actually be better. Yeah, let's flip the journal here, actually. There's no real drawback. We can always sack stuff to Braids. How low do we go, though? So we gain back 1 up to 8 and then lose 4 because of Sheoldred. Oh, this is interesting. Flip, drain. So now we can cast stuff from our graveyard. I didn't think this deck would ever flip Tarian's Journal, but this is like the situation where I think it makes sense. But can we get rid of the Sheoldred before we die? We're at 7. That's 3 more cards drawn, and this game is over. If we can draw a Threaten or a removal spell, we got it. Opponent's all the way up to 28. Wow, this shows the power of Sheoldred. This game is... Ooh... Rafine. This shows the power of Sheoldred. It has really been this one card that has done pretty much all of this. I think we've been winning this game on every possible metric except for the killing Sheoldred metric. And that might be the only metric that actually matters this game. Come on, removal. All right, that is good enough. So, yes, Sheoldred, please. Please join us. They're at 28, so we're not going to kill them, but let's send 2 at Wandering Emperor, 2 at our opponent, leave back the Market Gnome. Just in time, the Furnace Rains. So the Planeswalker's down. Opponent drops to 15. We get a treasure. And now before we get rid of the Sheoldred, let's sack the Market Gnome, draw a card. It's a land. And then use the Tomb of Aclazotz to... Well, we can replay a Market Gnome, although the exile from the battlefield mode only works with crafting in specific, so sacking it doesn't actually draw us a card. So I think we can go to the end of turn. We can sack the treasure. We want to gain as much life as we can while we have this Sheoldred. Sack the treasure, gain some life. And now we can sack the Sheoldred. And now we're back up to 10, and opponents only got a Ravine, and I think we just beat a very high-ranked player playing one of the best decks in Standard, Duress number 4, but it doesn't matter if you're dead on board, and our opponent is pretty close to dead on board if they're not literally dead on board. Opponent finds a land. I don't think it matters, though. Opponent passes. I mean, I guess we can cast a mark. Opponent scoops it up, and... oh, we sold the Sheoldred in a nick of time, and this deck is way better than it should be. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So what did we learn this week about Steal, Smack, and Sack in Standard? And going into our games, I figured this would be one of those decks that like got some cool wins, really annoyed opponents, and then we do the wrap up and be like, we won like 30% of the time, but we did cool things, so it was all worth it. Well, it turns out this is actually one of those magical decks that did cool things, annoyed opponents, and actually won a lot. I started off 5-1 with the deck, kept playing it for fun, currently 9-6, so 60% win rate at relatively high mythic with Steal, Smack, and Sack. As we talked about during the games, there's definitely like good and bad matchups. Creature free control thankfully isn't really much of a thing in Standard, but if we ever run into a creature free control deck, it's absolutely miserable. The other tough matchup is like super go wide aggro. Soldiers is probably the best example. Like we can't beat a Resolute Reinforcements. Honestly though, I think that problem's kind of fixable in the sideboard. If you look at our sideboard, it's really geared towards those two matchups. The idea is our main deck is gonna stomp all the Juns and Mono Blacks and Sheoldreds and Italis and Atraxas. We're just gonna steal them and smack them and sack them, and it's gonna let us win all those matchups. So our sideboard's really skewed towards help us fight control. If we gotta take out all of our threaten effects, hopefully we bring in a bunch of planeswalkers and duresses and have some shot, and help us fight aggro. I think though we could add some more sweepers for aggro, some more Path to Perils, maybe Brothers that End, something like that. Just have some more sweepers that are good against like this soldier style decks. But overall, I was shocked at how well this deck performed. It's really funny. You could see in some of our matchups, just the way our opponent was playing these long pauses where they figure out what we're doing and we've stolen a couple of their creatures and they're like holding their Sheoldred and thinking, do I even play this? Do I play the best creature in Standard, or am I just gonna get it stolen and get smacked with it and then have it sacked so my opponent can draw a card? We saw opponents like discarding their Decadent Dragons and Italis because they were too afraid to play them because they knew our Bloody Betrayal or Twisted Fealty or Furnace Raids was gonna yoink them. Also, shout out to Ariad's Tempting Apple. It was absolutely hilarious how often the Drain for 3 mode on that card really matters. It looks like our worst threaten because it's 4 mana, but the fact that we can like sack it to Tyrion's Journal to draw a card, and the fact that apparently draining for 3 is actually really relevant a lot of the time, makes it one of our best threats. So if you want to really annoy opponents, punish them for playing all these super strong push power creepy creatures in Standard. This seems like the perfect way to do it. Just play a bunch of random commons that steal all your opponent's good stuff, smack them with them, sack them, and win some games. So that's been our deck for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.